The cargo hold reeked of oxidized metal in despair. Sarah pressed her 3 kittens closer to her chest, their small bodies trembling against her matted fur. The chains binding her to the bulkhead clinked softly with each labored breath. Through the cracked viewport she could see the debris field growing larger, twisted fragments of destroyed vessels spinning lazily in the void. The Krillian slavers had abandoned ship 30 minutes ago. She'd heard their panicked chittering, felt the vibrations of their escape pods launching. They'd left her here, chained like cargo they couldn't be bothered to salvage. The collision alarm wailed its monotonous death song, counting down the minutes until this derelict freighter would join the graveyard of metal surrounding it. Sarah's species, the Felina, were prized across the galaxy for their grace and intelligence, but that same value made them targets. She'd been taken from her home world 6 months ago, her kittens born in captivity. Now they would die in it. Her youngest, barely 2 weeks old, mewled softly. Sarah licked the kid's head, her rough tongue smoothing down the downy fur. "Hush, little one," she whispered in her native tongue, though she knew the translation collar around her neck broadcast her words as gibberish to anyone listening. Not that anyone was listening anymore. The ship shuddered. Something large had impacted the stern. Sarah's ears flattened against her skull as the lights flickered and died, leaving only the emergency strips casting everything in sickly red. The kittens whimpered, and she wrapped her tail around them protectively. Through the viewport, a shape emerged from the debris field, Note a rock. A ship small, agile, with burn marks scarring its hull. Human design, if Sarah remembered correctly. She'd seen their vessels before, heard whispers in the slave markets. Humans are newcomers to the galactic stage. Considered reckless by the elder races, too emotional, too unpredictable, too dangerous. The human ship latched onto the Freyr's hull with a pneumatic hiss that echoed through the dying vessel. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. Humans rarely took slaves, but they weren't known for their mercy, either. They were warriors, conquerors. What would they want with a dying Kate and her kittens? Heavy boots rang against metal deck plating. The cargo hold door screeched open and Sarah bared her fangs instinctively, pulling her kittens behind her as much as the chains would allow. A figure stepped through the hatch, backlit by the harsh white light of a portable flood. Human, definitely bipedal, wearing a battered vacuette with the helmet retracted. Female, Sarah thought, though human sexual dimorphism was subtle compared to her own species. The woman's dark hair was pulled back in a severe knot, and her eyes, brown and sharp, swept the cargo hold with practiced efficiency. "Shit," the human muttered, her voice carried by the translation collar. She crossed the distance in long strides, dropping to one knee in front of Sarah. "Easy, easy. I'm not here to hurt you," Sarah's growl intensified. The human's hands moved slowly, deliberately, pulling a small device from her belt. "Name's Captain Mara Holt. That freighter out there sent a distress beacon before it went dark. My crew salvaging what we can, but we don't leave living beings behind." The device hummed to life, a molecular cutter, Sarah realized. Mara aimed it at the chains binding her wrist, and Sarah flinched. "I know," Mara said softly, her eyes meeting Sarah's. "I know you've got every reason not to trust me. But this ship's got maybe 10 minutes before it breaks apart. Those babies deserve a chance, don't they?" Something in the human's voice made Sarah hesitate. Not pity. Pity she'd heard before from the Krillians who'd shackled her. This was different. Respect. Maybe recognition. Sarah slowly nodded. The molecular cutter sliced through the first chain like it was paper. Then the second. As the third fell away, Sarah's legs nearly buckled. She'd been bound so long she'd forgotten what freedom felt like. Mara caught her before she could fall, one arm supporting Sarah's weight while the other scooped up 2 of the kittens. "Can you walk?" Sarah grabbed her youngest, cradling it against her chest. "Yes, and good move." They ran. The freighter groaned around them, bulkheads buckling as structural integrity failed. Mara led them through twisting corridors, her headlamp cutting through the darkness. Twice they had to climb over debris. Once Mara physically lifted Sarah over a gap in the floor, kittens and all as if she weighed nothing. Humans were strong. Sarah had forgotten that they burst through the airlock just as the freighter's spine snapped with a sound like a dying god. Mara's ship, the Defiant runner, according to the name stenkled on the hull, sealed its hatch behind them. Through the viewport, Sarah watched the freighter tear itself apart, scattering its guts across the void. Mara set the kittens down gently on a padded bench in the airlock chamber, medical bays, 2 decks down. My crew doctor's probably human-centric, but she's good. We'll get you and your babies checked out. Sarah stared at her, this strange human who'd risked her life and her ship for strangers. Why? Mara paused, one hand on the inner hatch control. She looked back and something fierce burned in her eyes. Because where I come from, we don't leave people in chains. Not ever. The hatch hissed open, revealing a warm, well-lit corridor. Somewhere deeper in the ship, Sarah heard voices. Laughter, music, the sounds of life continuing. Her kitten stirred, curious now instead of afraid. "Come on," Mara said, extending her hand. "Let's get you home." Sarah took the human's hand. It was calloused and strong, scarred from 100 battles, but it was also warm. For the first time in months, Sarah allowed herself to hope.